Alright, so first things first, the UMA frame buffer size, or the VRAM, I have it set to 6G. I had it set to 3G originally before I even changed anything, and it worked. You can run the game off of 3G. Now, if your game is having issues or you don't know what frame buffer size you're on, I suggest you go into BIOS configuration and see what you're on and try to tweak it according to there. I know some people that couldn't launch the game changed this and then they could launch it, different things like that. So if you're troubleshooting, you might want to mess with the UMA frame buffer size. But I'm going to have mine set to 6, and that's pretty much all I'm going to change here, and then we can exit. By the way, if you don't know how to get into BIOS on the Legion Go, when your system's turned off and you're turning it on, just hold the power button and the volume up button until it powers up, and it'll give you a menu asking you if you want to go into the BIOS menu. Something worth pointing out is that I'm on Windows 11 23H2, and I am fully up to date as far as Windows updates go. Real quick driver coverage over on Legion Space. My AMD chipset driver is set to 1.1.0.12. There is an update, however, for the AMD chipset driver and the card reader driver that I have not downloaded, so just something to point out. BIOS update current version N3CN35WW audio driver. I'm not going to go over all of these numbers, but the main one I will go over is the AMD graphics driver that a lot of people tend to ask me about because they believe that that is the culprit on why they can't open their game. Just as a reference, I don't know if that's the reason you're having issues. My game works, and I am on graphics driver version 31.0.24028.1001. It has 730 in the brackets up there, whatever, parentheses. Don't know if that means anything, but this is based off of the scan within Legion Space. But yeah, Lenovo Energy Management. Just really wanted to go over the graphics driver that I'm currently on, and the chipset update probably is necessary. I'll probably do that here in a bit, but since I'm recording this video, we're not going to worry about it right now. If you don't know how to scan for drivers, over inside of Legion Space, assuming you're on this version of Legion Space, which I believe is the current most recent version, you go to disk and drivers, and then you can check for updates and it'll start scanning. I just did it, so we're not going to do it again. I will be playing Black Ops 6 on performance mode. It's set to Smart Fan, and yeah, there's that. 800p. I'll go to the quick menu here so that we can go over those real quick. But here we go, 1280 by 800, 144 hertz refresh. I am using the Smart Fan option, and I am at performance mode. You can try playing on balanced or quiet. I don't expect the game to actually work as intended on quiet. Maybe balance you can get like 30 frames or something. We're not gonna test that theory right now, but I'm on performance just because I know it works, and it works well on performance. So there's that 800p performance mode and 144 hertz refresh. Those are the main takeaways there, and I think we're good off of Legion Space. I don't know how nice they're being about bans these days, but I'm gonna make sure my Legion Space is closed in background. I don't want any issues with overlay menus or shadow bans or anything because of TDP menus and things like that, which was a thing in the past. It happened on the ROG Ally, where if you had like a overlay menu, which is basically just like one of these menus, open while the game was open, then it would register it as like bad software or something along those lines. Super important, I am not running the game off of Battle.net or Steam. All of my Call of Duty on the Legion Go is downloaded on the Xbox app via Gamepass Ultimate. Black Ops 6 is available via Game Pass, so if you have Game Pass, you can download the game, and you can upgrade to the Vault Edition if you would like for $30 instead of buying the $100 version of the game. But all of my Call of Duty, Warzone, Modern Warfare 3, and Black Ops 6 are all downloaded via HQ on the Game Pass version of the game. So just want to make that clear, because a lot of people are like, it's not working via Steam, it's not working via this. I can't really talk about every other platform when I'm mainly just using Game Pass version. I know it works this way. Another thing worth mentioning is my Call of Duty is installed on my SD card. It is not installed to the internal memory of the system. I selected my SD card when downloading the game and when downloading any of the Xbox games I have on this system. Everything's downloaded to the SD card as far as like Warzone, Call of Duty, Black Ops 6. I did run into an issue in the past, especially on Steam, where the game wouldn't launch when I had it downloaded to my internal storage. So I don't know what that was about. I have played off of my internal storage, but as of recently, I've been only playing the game off of my SD card. I have a 512 SD card in there, I believe, and that's what it's running off of. Sometimes the initial launch does take a little bit, but it does end up booting up into the game and we can play no problem. In my situation, the reason I have the game downloaded onto an SD card and not the internal storage is because I'm planning on playing this game on multiple devices, so I could just take that SD card out, move it to the MSI Claw, and the game will already be downloaded, and then move it to the Steam Deck and the game will already be downloaded. Since my ROG Ally card reader is ruined, I have to use a external card reader, but the same thing, I can plug that SD card into that card reader, the external one, and I can play it on my ROG Ally. That's sort of the benefit of having the game on an SD card versus the internal storage. Load times and things like that might be better on internal storage, but I can actually take the game with me on all of my devices without having to download it each time by having it on my SD card. By the way, if you get this pop-up window about your GPU drivers being out of date or your version being wrong, and you know you're on the most current driver version, just hit ignore. You're fine to hit ignore. The game will load up anyway. I've had a lot of people ask me, what do I do when I get this pop-up window? If you just hit ignore on the driver version pop-up, you should be fine, as long as you know you're on the right drivers, right? I just think it doesn't know that you're using the Legion Go specific drivers, and it's going to ask me for this initial setup every single time. Make sure, hopefully they fix this. I've opened this game on my PC on the Legion Go, and every other time, if not every time, it's done the initial setup screen. They need to fix this. I don't know why it's doing this. I think there's been one time where it didn't make me do the setup or install shaders all over again when opening the game. Always make sure that if you're using the controllers attached to the device, or if you're just using a controller in general, that your gameplay input is set to controller, or you will not be able to move once you get into a game. Display, it's setting this to quality, but we're going to go over the quality and graphic settings here in a second, so I'm just going to hit continue. Alright, graphic settings, display quality, and view. I'm going to try to make this as legible as possible. If you can't really see it, I'm going to be talking over each section. If you have any questions, just make sure you ask me in the comments, or I can take screenshots of the settings and post them on my Discord so that you can see them a little bit better. But I'm going to be talking about each thing and what I do to get my game running the way I like it. This is not per se the best possible settings you can have. These are just kind of the settings I've been using that have made the game look good and run good, at least in my opinion. You can always go for higher quality or a better performance or whatever. This is kind of like what I think looks good in my opinion and what I like so far. If you have any recommendations, feel free to leave those in the comments as well or in the Discord. But I'm gonna kind of share my settings, and when you see gameplays, these are the settings that I'm running. So that's why I'm just showing you my personal settings and not trying to get your game to look as best as it possibly can or get it to have the highest possible frame rate. This is just kind of like what I've been using. I'm going to emphasize that because people are going to say, oh, you could be running on this, oh, these settings are better, blah 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 blah. I know that, but these are the settings I'm using. When you see a gameplay, people are going to ask me, what settings were you using for that gameplay? These are the settings. First setting, display mode, full screen exclusive. We're going to leave that alone. Display monitor, go display. I'm not really going to touch anything on here. Everything is already set. We already showed that we were on 800p. This is set to 800p. It's set to 144 hertz. So we are good there. Moving on to quality. Here in the quality tab, everything is default because the game reset everything to default. So assuming you haven't touched anything, or if your game reset like mine, we get to start from scratch here. And the first thing I'm going to do is change from FSR 1 to FSR 3, just because I think FSR 3 is slightly less blurry looking than FSR 1. That's just how I feel about that. So I'm going to change this to FSR 3. And then we're going to go back up to the graphic preset and basically just select balanced. That's what I do. You can go ultra, you can go basic, you can try it either way if you're going to go for quality or go for performance. I'm kind of in the middle here, so I select balanced. And then from balanced, we're going to go down here to the VRAM scale target. For whatever reason, this setting was closely associated with what's that called? Packet burst. In the previous games, changing this to like 50 or 60 helped reduce packet burst. I don't know how that works. I don't know the scientific method or process or technological reasoning for this shit. I just know that VRAM scale target set to 50 is the recommended thing I've seen on Reddit or everywhere I've seen there where people are experiencing packet bursts. This is something they say to do. So I don't know if it's superstitious or what, but we're just going to go with it. I've been doing it and I've seen less packet bursts maybe. I don't know. We might still packet burst like crazy. Last night, randomly, my game started doing super heavy dosages of packet bursting on PC. All I did was close the game, reopen it, and it just went away. It made no sense. My internet was fine. The matches were just some of the matches I got in were just super laggy and packet burst was going crazy. But anyway, moving forward to, I think we're good here. Show more. Okay, so the FSR preset is set to balanced, and then texture resolution. All right, this is where we're gonna get into the detail things. I didn't really touch anything here, if you noticed. Once I set the preset to balanced, I kind of just let this be. Texture filter, Annie, whatever. So it's low, high, off. None of this stuff I touched. So I just want to point that out. Once I did the preset, I just let it do whatever. I'm just looking for anything that says ultra to not have it on. Or like reflections. I don't need reflection quality to be super insane. So I could set that to low. Tessellation, near, medium. Yeah, nothing here stands out. I just kind of changed the reflection quality to low, because I don't need super high reflection graphics on this. So balanced, and I just changed that one setting. FSR3, balanced preset, static reflections to low. That's literally all I have going on here. Oh, and VRAM scale target set to 50. Now moving to, let me apply those. On the next screen, view, I think the only thing I ever change here is the FOV, and since I'm playing on the Legion Go, it is a bigger screen. But I had it set to, I think, 105 or 110. I think 120 is not extremely necessary when you're playing on these smaller devices, just because it makes things harder to see or further to look at. But the movement speed does change based on your FOV, and I don't like feeling like a tank. I like feeling like I'm moving pretty fast. So you can change this according, like if you want to feel like you're moving faster. Everyone runs the same speed in the game, but the FOV does play an effect on how fast you look like you're running. So I'm going to leave this at 105. And I think that's a good balance between still being able to see and still moving or feeling like I'm moving fairly quickly. So that's that. And that is pretty much it as far as like graphic settings go. And you'll see here, I have a gold gun. Might make a video on that. You know, showing you guys my first gold. Anyway, if you don't know how to type, you can literally search any setting in this game by typing it. So if you don't know how to pull up your keyboard and you want to search a setting, just hit search, pull your keyboard up from the bottom here, or pull the taskbar up from the bottom here, hit the keyboard button, and then now I can type whatever I want. FPS counter. Boom. Now we're there. Could close the keyboard. FPS counter on. And unfortunately, it does reset all of my controller settings as well. And I'm not going to go over those, but I am going to change my sensitivity just so I can feel better in the firing range. In the firing range, we are at 105 frames. And this looks actually really good. I think that pretty much covers everything in terms of performance and graphic settings that I can think of that will explain why my game looks the way it does. So if you're ever wondering why my game looks a certain way, or if you're a fan of how it looks, or just want to know my settings for reference, these are the settings I played on in the previous video I made, and these are the settings I will continue to play on until I find things to tweak, and if I change anything, I would let you guys know. So for anyone curious on why or how my game looks the way it does, or how it's functioning, those are pretty much all of the settings I can think of, or updates and drivers and things like that I can think of to show you guys, to explain why my game looks the way it does. Hopefully this video helped you out if you just needed some decent settings, or if you were missing something when setting up your game. Either way, I'm happy to help. Again, if you have any further questions, or if you just want to share anything, feel free to reach out on Discord or leave it in the comment section below. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you guys on the next video. Peace.